Hi, everyone, and welcome to Hope with Lauren Kelley, a show where we try to encourage one another to find the hope in every day. Today, we're going to be talking about back to school, and we have one of my dear friends on as our guest, retired principal Lori Ringel.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm excited to be here.
Good. I'm so glad you're here. And I know you're nervous, and it's totally fine. I think it's just going to be a conversation between two friends. But I'm really excited to have Lori on the show. She was my children's principal at the school that my daughter Hazel and my other kids, Elizabeth and Micah, attended. And now both my younger two attend. So we don't get the pleasure of having her as the principal anymore, though. She retired, and I'm really sad about it. But I am really excited to have you here and have your perspective on kind of the going back to school stuff. So I just kind of want to dive in a little bit, though, so people can understand what your life and education has been like. So can you just talk about your journey into education and like kind of as a mother, but where it all started even before motherhood?
Well, my journey into education started when I was a little girl, and probably a lot of you can relate. The playing school downstairs in the basement in Colorado, and knowing forever that I wanted to be a teacher. Yeah. I don't know that my aspirations were to become a principal someday, but I knew I wanted to be a teacher. So I was fortunate enough when I was in high school that a class was offered where we went to the local preschool in the afternoon, a work study or something like that. Yeah. So that reaffirmed my interest in it. And in fact, I ended up working at that preschool for a couple of years after the class. And I enjoyed that. And from there, when I graduated high school, I went on to Cal State Northridge. And I went into early childhood education at first because I thought I wanted to be a preschool teacher.
I went to Cal State Northridge, by the way. Yeah, okay. And that's what I was studying, was to be an elementary school teacher.
Yeah, it's a great job.
Yeah.
So I went into preschool teaching, and my dad thought, well, you're not going to make much money being a preschool teacher, but let me buy you a preschool and we'll run one. So we tried that for a little bit, and then I realized that elementary school or being a public school teacher with a teaching credential was really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I continued on and got my degree, and then got my master's degree and my administrative credential, and it's been all good since.
Yeah. And so you started after the preschool, you started as an elementary school teacher and then moved up in like the administrative world, or how did the journey to principal happen for you?
Okay. Well, when I was in college, I moved on to I work at a different private school, and I was a camp director and after-school director. Moved on when I got my first college degree but didn't have my credential. I could teach in a private school, so then I became a kindergarten and first grade teacher. And this worked really well for me because I got married and I had my kids, and my kids could go to work with me. So they were just around the corner. So we did that for about 5 or 6 years.
How many children do you have?
I have two.
Yes.
I have two daughters, Heather and Shannon.
And they're grown now.
They're grown
and
now.
You're a grandma.
I'm a grandma, four grandkids, and that's one of the reasons why I retired.
Yeah.
So I could be a grandma and spend time with them.
So did you find that kind of your life in education and your life in motherhood just kind of went hand in hand the entire time, or were they separated at some point? How did that go for you?
They were never really separated.
Yeah.
Because when they moved on to elementary school, from preschool on to elementary school, then I moved on to work for Conejo Valley School District. And I worked at the same school where they were going. Yeah. So, I could do what I needed to do while I was there, knowing that they were right there next to me. Eventually, I got my full credential, and I went to work for Simi Valley School District. And at that point, we were separated.
Yeah, and you were a teacher at that point still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was a teacher. Nice.
And then how did you get to principal again? We didn't finish that part.
We didn't finish that part. I went, Simi Valley School District helped me get into a program at UCLA.
Oh, wow.
To get my administrative credential.
That's amazing.
And so I had their full support, and while I was in the program, I became an assistant principal at Wood Ranch, and one thing after another.
And what drew you to the position of principal? Because I know it's different than being a teacher, and I know that the kind of preparations you have and the kind of impact that you have, it just hits on different parts in a child's life. So what was it about being a principal that drew you?
To be honest, I didn't think I wanted to be a principal.
Yeah.
I really liked being in the classroom. I really liked being with the kids. I liked the relationships I developed with the kids and with the parents of the students. And the other part, the administrative part, I didn't think that was my cup of tea because I really felt I'd be losing out on the interactions with the students and the interactions with the parents and that close one-on-one.
Yeah.
But necessity called. I was a single mom, so, I needed to do what I needed to do, but no regrets.
Yeah.
It worked fine because you make it work, and being the principal was wonderful. I just considered the fact when I ended, I had about 600 students, and I considered them all mine, kind of, sort of. I had to share them with their teachers and their parents, but, they were special. I'd be out and about a lot, and the parents, I greeted them, and, I still got to do things just on a larger scale.
Yeah.
So it was okay.
Oh, that's neat. So I guess that kind of leads me to my next question is, for you, what has education meant to you? Like, has it given you a purpose or giving back to others? How did it play a role in your life, and what did it mean to you?
The kids are at school 6 hours a day, minimum. And they spend not as much time, but a great deal of their time at school. Mm-hmm. So it's important that we make a difference for these kids every single day, and that we do what we need to do. We work our hearts out. We encourage them to be the best that they could be, to try to persevere so that they can move on and be successful.
Yeah.
They have the power in their hands, but we need to give them the education. We need to give them the tools to grow with it.
Yeah.
So, that's really important to me. And the other thing that's really important to me as far as being an educator, I've learned in my life, and as I get older and wiser and experience more, that life is all about relationships. And you have a chance to make a difference in the lives of the people you touch.
Yes.
And if people feel that you genuinely care, and if you listen to what they have to say with the intent to understand, and the kids know that you care and that you'll always be there for them, and you do what you say and you say what you're going to do, and they can trust you, those relationships will grow and carry you so far.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak from experience. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional, but Lori was the principal at my kids' school when Hazel was diagnosed with cancer, when she beat cancer, when she relapsed, and subsequently when she passed away. And I can tell people from experience that the relationship that you had with my children while going through that, you would bring the kids in for lunch once a week, or you would just check in with them, and it's meant so much to them. And I think you guys have grown in a relationship in such a way that you've become family. And that's nothing I ever anticipated, the principal of my elementary school, my kids' elementary school, becoming family. And I'm so thankful for it, because I felt that I could send them to school and know that they were going to be well taken care of and watched after, and know that they'll be supported. And we had such an incredible staff at the school, too,
Absolutely.
with the teachers and the partnerships that you guys all had together. But I think it does kind of start from the top and trickle down. And if they have a leader who's pursuing that kind of relationships, or who's being there for the kids in a way where, like you said, they can trust you, they can feel like they're being understood and heard and cared for, that maybe other people will be inspired to do the same. So I just wanted to say thank you for being that kind of principal, and I hope others watching can encourage their educators to do the same, because it made such a difference.
Absolutely. And thank you. I think the whole Big Springs community, and it truly was a community and is a community, can embrace you and does embrace you. And we really felt like we were all family.
Yes, I agree.
And everybody did what they could, wishing they could do more.
I know.
That's the thing. The kids would talk about Hazel. The kids would talk about Elizabeth and Micah and wonder how they're doing. They would ask about you.
Yeah.
The rock garden, Hazel's butterfly garden at the end, that was a gift from the community, but it also was helping everybody to heal.
I agree.
And feel like they could do something.
I agree.
They could do something for the family, and they could do something for Hazel.
Like you said, life is all about relationships.
Absolutely.
If you don't know, if you're watching, my kids' school after Hazel passed away, they wanted to do something in honor of her. And was it a kid who came up with the idea, or a mom? It was a mom.
It was a mom.
A mom came up with the idea because Hazel loved painting rocks, and it was kind of a big thing in our community. And she came up with the idea that every kid at the school could paint a rock, and we could put them in a garden and then plant plants that attract butterflies, which were a symbol that Hazel kind of hung to during her treatment. And it turned out so beautiful, and it was dedicated in her honor. And there's a bench on the side that says it's a friendship bench, because that's how Hazel lived. She knew that life was about relationships. And I think that in any role that you play, especially in a child's life, keeping that at the forefront is so important. And knowing that you want to build trust, you want to build like a loving, kind, and caring relationship, and it makes all the difference in the world. And I think that's why I was excited to have you on, because we can kind of share that perspective. We hear a lot about what it's like going back to school as a teacher or as a parent or as a kid, but we don't really hear so much from the principal's point of view. So keeping that in mind, you are intentional with relationships. What was it like for you going back to school each year after the summer, keeping all those kids, 600 students in mind? What was that like? Because the process for a parent, is we get the school supplies, the teachers set up their classrooms, the kids get their new clothes and start going to bed earlier. But what does it take as a principal to go back to school, and while still trying to keep that in mind?
Well, I used to spend countless hours looking at the students, looking at the teachers, looking at friends, looking at learning styles, looking at personalities, wanting to do the best that I could to make the best placement for each and every student, and for each and every teacher too, and each and every parent.
Yeah.
Because, they're in school 180 days, and every day is important, and we listen closely to what the teachers have to say that had them the year before, because they really know them best educationally and personality-wise. So they play such a strong role in what they think is best for that student for the following year. And that's the basis for it all. Yeah. What is best for this student? How can we best help them grow, meet their needs? And, maybe the student thinks it's best that they're with this person or this person, and maybe the parents thinks it's best too. But sometimes we as educators need to make that decision thinking, it might be a nice fit, but it might be a better fit.
Yeah, somewhere else.
So thinking about those, and thinking about scheduling, and thinking about meeting the needs of the teachers and meeting the needs of all the students. Yeah. And is the school going to look like it should and be ready for the kids and be welcoming? That first day of school is scary. Yeah. Scary for the teachers, scary for the principal, scary for the kids, and scary for the parents. And when they walk onto that campus, are they going to feel welcomed?
Yeah. What kind of things did you do to prepare for that first day, to create that atmosphere of feeling welcome?
Well, I was blessed to be at a school with top-notch professionals. So they've been there, they've done that, and they know what to do. But they don't come in 2 days before school to get ready and make it all right for the students. They're there, and I would guess to think that most all of them have spent time over the summer planning, preparing, thinking about it, meeting with their peers, but fixing up their classroom. I was at Lakeshore the other day, and Lakeshore Learning, educational materials, and I was looking at all these teachers in there and all the supplies they're buying, the borders, so they can make their bulletin boards welcoming and perfect, and the helper charts and the other things. Yeah. But, putting that time in so that when that student comes in there, they think, this is going to be okay. Yeah. This is going to be okay.
And that's so important.
Absolutely. They're scared to death that first day. There's a book that Harry Wong wrote. It's the first days of school, and it sets the frame for teachers. And I used to teach it to new teachers. What are these kids thinking when they come in there? And there's all sorts of questions going around in their heads. Where are the bathrooms? Where am I going to eat lunch? Where do I put my lunch? What do I do? Will my teacher like me? Will the principal like me? And, it has to be a community. Everybody has to be on the same page. You have to be there for those kids.
I think people don't really think about all of the contributing factors to making a kid feel safe and welcome and comfortable at school. I mean, we kind of just send our kids to school and go, okay, this is the way things are. But how long are you thinking about and dwelling on all of these little facets of how to make these kids feel good while they're at school? How long does that generally take for a school year?
Oh, it takes all the time.
Yeah.
It takes a conscious effort and focus.
Yeah.
To
it's
be
not like
honest,
you have the summer off or anything,
To be honest, I'm not one of those people that likes to sit behind my desk and do that kind of stuff when the kids are there.
Yeah.
So every principal has different strengths and interests. I was happy as a clam out there on the campus, walking around, walking in classes, greeting the kids.
Yeah.
Greeting them to know that they're welcome, to know that they're cared about. The teachers need to do the same. Are you a hall-friendly teacher?
I like that, a hall-friendly teacher.
Yeah, and the custodian and the office staff and everybody else. When people walk on the campus, do they feel welcomed?
Yeah, I certainly did at Big Springs.
Yeah. Do they feel important? Do they know that their needs are going to be met? But on top of that, do they trust us? Because, we're getting their most prized possessions.
Yeah.
And do they know that we're going to take care of them?
Yeah.
That's hard.
And do you spend a good part of your summer reflecting on what the year was like before and wanting to improve? Or do you spend most of your summer just thinking forward? Like, what does your summer look like as a principal?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. I think the end of the school year and until the end of June, you're spending a lot of time reflecting. You spend that time with the teachers, too, talking about goals, wishes, dreams, high points. What could we do better next year? How can we get there? Taking surveys of the kids. We had a survey that we used to do, and we used to ask the parents, too, what they thought, because we need to hear from somebody else.
Yeah.
Because what we think could be very different than from what they think and what they're feeling. And even with the kids. We may think we're doing a bang-up job with this, but I don't know. And then you go back to thinking about relationships.
Yeah.
And do they feel safe? Do they feel comfortable in this age where you worry about bullying and being kind and all the trauma that kids are going through? Are we meeting those needs too?
Yeah.
How do we deal with the holistic health of the kids? The emotional, the social, the educational, all those needs of those kids.
And you're thinking about 600 students at a time. And it's probably really difficult, like you were saying, when you're talking about placing your kids in a certain classroom, that's 600 different people you're thinking about. And that's a lot of work and effort. I know that the administration comes into the school year sooner and they're working on the ground. How soon do you go back to school to start the process?
I would have been there already.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you have to set the stage first, and I think you do it. Even when you're setting the table for dinner. Yeah. You have to plan it out. You have to think about the menu. You have to think about everything, how it's going to work, and it's that upfront work. Yeah. The teachers would call it front loading if they're doing a lesson. You've got to front load this task if you want the kids to be successful. Well, you have to be purposeful. Yeah. You have to think about it.
And I think that that's something that every person can implement in their life. Like, whatever it is that you're doing, being purposeful, I think, is so powerful. And like you said, front-loading something and preparing for it, I think that it can help people be at their most successful. So I think that that's a lesson that anybody could take from. But I think that's such an inspiring thing to see, somebody in a public school setting that's caring about each and every one of those 600 kids and saying, what's going to be best for that child, and not just the whole. Because it is true that it's, the whole's not greater than the sum of its parts. Like, it's so important, and I'm thankful we had somebody like you who really did put that to action. So,
well, thank you, but it wasn't just me.
Yes, I know. I was about to say.
You've got those teachers, too, that are looking at those students, and they know them so well. Yeah. And, their learning style, but their emotional needs.
Yeah, such a team effort.
Yeah, and how they can challenge them. Yeah. Sometimes these kids need to be prodded a little bit, pushed a little bit to persevere. Yeah. I guess that's the word I'm looking for, not prodded, but to persevere. Yeah. not everything in life is easy.
No.
No, and not everything is met with success at first.
Yes.
But you have to get up and you have to dust yourself off and you have to keep trying. If you're having trouble with math concept, you just keep chugging along.
Yeah.
And parents, let's jump in and you can help them with this too at home. Let's be partnerships.
Yeah.
Let's be partners because that's what we need.
Yeah. Kind of on that note, perseverance, I think, is so key as a human race. It's the thing that we need to strive for most so we can keep living this life together. I know that there were things during your career that I'm sure were not easy and struggles you went through. Would you like to share a little bit about some of the toughest struggles you had and how education and your position played a role in helping you persevere through it?
You talking personally?
If you're open,
okay.
Yes.
Personally, yes, there were struggles, and
you said you were a single mom.
I was a single mom,
long
so
time.
Yes, and I was raising my 2 daughters, and going to school for part of it. So they had to deal with life as a single parent and going to after school. I was blessed to have a strong family and family support just like you.
Yeah.
My mom and dad, I would get the kids up. I would drive them to Westlake Village, drop them off every morning. They would feed them breakfast and take them to school.
That's so nice.
That relationship with their grandma and grandpa is something that can't ever be taken back.
Yeah.
And it's sad to say, but after Grandpa wasn't needed anymore because my oldest got her driver's license, then Grandpa's health started to decline.
Interesting.
So, that was a struggle for all of us, and but then it was into my principalship when somebody I loved very deeply was diagnosed with cancer. And so I'm trying to work full time and take him to Cedars-Sinai and the blood and everything else. But the team rallied around me at school and we did what we could. And, we got kids that would sometimes drive them for chemotherapy and do those other things. And, eventually cancer sucks. I'm sorry.
Yes. Don't be sorry because it's true.
It's true. And although we did everything we could, we lost him. But, I think I missed 3 days of school.
Wow.
When he passed away. And everybody said, take longer, and I could take longer, but I didn't want to. I needed to get back to be with the people that loved me.
Yeah.
The people that supported me. Here again, it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
This time, it was the relationships giving back to me.
Yeah.
And if I had not had that community, the kids at school knew. They didn't know all the details, but the staff knew, and everybody was doing what they could to support me, and it meant the world to me.
Yeah.
And I was able to pick myself up by my bootstraps and move on from that. So that, this community.
Man.
Yeah.
It's an inspiration because I know that a tragedy such as losing someone you love to cancer can shake your whole world. So it's inspiring to see that there was something so positive in your life, so community-oriented, so uplifting, that it kept you going, because it takes a lot to find that thing. Mm-hmm. And you're lucky enough to have had that all along. I think that it's so great that you got to hold on to that.
Oh, absolutely. And I couldn't have done it without him, but, without the community supporting me. But the flip side of this, dealing with this and Hazel and everything you're going through, I look at life with a total different perspective right now.
Yes.
You get bumps in the road, you get hiccups in the road, and I think, oh well, move on.
Yeah.
I can't dwell on that. It's not going to, there's so much more important stuff in life.
Yeah.
And so you have to look for the positive and do what you can to try to make life better for everybody else.
Yeah, it's so hard to do. I wish it was easy to say, all right, this tough thing happened, but we got to keep going. We got to move forward. I struggle with that so much.
Oh, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And everybody deals with grief differently.
Yes.
So there's no right, there's no wrong.
Yeah. But I think one of the underlying factors is community. Mm-hmm. I know that that's what helped me so much in keeping our hope alive, our perseverance alive, is being lifted up by the others around us, and it's still the same now. So I think that even on the days where it's really hard to stay motivated to move forward, to keep living, I am finding the small glimmers of hope because of the people around me, and especially people like you, where I see, okay, Like, you've had tragedy in your life, and you've had to fight through a lot of things, but you're still here, and you're here with this beautiful, positive spirit that, I am so encouraged by and also am so inspired by. So I think that anybody watching could feel the same in knowing that even when it's really, really hard, looking to others for hope and encouragement is such a crucial part in keeping you hopeful. And you've done that for me. So
thank you. And it does get better. It never goes away, but it does get better.
Yeah, somebody told me, and I think this is so accurate, is that grief is like this. It consumes your entire life, and it doesn't disappear. It stays like this, but then your life learns to grow around it. So it's always there. It always stays the same. It doesn't diminish. It doesn't go away, because some days you can be hit like a tidal wave, but you do kind of learn to grow your life around it. And that's the process I'm currently in, and it's really, really hard and really, really exhausting. But I do think it will build more of that thing that I'm looking for, is that hope and that perseverance. And I see that in you, and I see that in so many of the people I know and love. So I know that there's hope, and that's keeping me here.
You'll get there.
I'm trying.
Yeah. And sometimes you make yourself keep going because of those around you. So there again too, they're counting on you. They need you. They'd like to see a smile today.
Yeah.
So, you do what you need to do. Yeah. You go, and I could step on those school grounds, and my life was behind me, for this little bit. Yeah. It might pop in here and there, but you have to focus on where you were. So,
staying present and mindful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To live in the present.
See, these are all the things I'm like learning in therapy, and all the things that I know are right, but my emotions haven't quite caught up, where I'm going, oh, let's stay mindful, stay present. In my first episode, I kind of detailed all the different things that a therapist encourages a person who's feeling hopeless with. And I'm reading all these things, and I'm like, yeah, I know. And then I go, but it's so hard to do.
It's hard
to do. But at least we know we're not alone in doing it. And I think that's, again, comes back to life is about relationships, and that's what it's all about. And I think that's really cool to be able to see it in a elementary school principal perspective. And I think also that kind of leads me to one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, was not just how do you stay motivated despite your circumstances, but I also know a school year is really, really long. As a mother, I'm like tired by the end of the day, or by the end of the school year, and then I'm tired by the end of the summer, and I'm ready for them to go back to school. So how, as a principal who has to go to school every single day, how do you stay motivated to keep those relationships going, to keep that feeling of comfort and welcome feelings for those kids? How do you stay motivated? Or how did you, I guess, now that you're retired?
Well, I was blessed to work for the County Office of Education, teaching new teachers for a while. And one of the things we taught, and I can't credit the source right now, I'm sorry for that, but that there's phases to the school year.
Yeah.
There's phases to what teachers are feeling. And sometimes what teachers are feeling, the parents are feeling, the kids are feeling too, and the principal and the staff too. But, everybody starts up here. You're eager, you're anticipating it, you're excited, you're looking forward to it. Education is one of the things where every year is a new start.
Yeah.
And that's a very fortunate yet unfortunate thing. But for teachers and for students, every year is a new year. There's a definite beginning and a definite end. Yeah. So it's exciting at the beginning, hard to say goodbye at the end, but you're moving on. But everything's great, and then you get into October. And, we're getting into report cards, and the illnesses and all those other things are starting to hit. The kids are getting tired. The parents are getting tired. So how do we, if we recognize it, if we know it's coming, what strategies can we do to break up that monotony and to bring up the excitement again and do some of those other things? So as a principal, too, it's the same type thing. You got to be thinking about what's coming up, what I have to do, and do what you can when you can. Yeah. Because it's hard. Yeah. And it took me until about the last year of school, a couple of years of school. I was I was responding to emails middle of the night sometimes, just because I couldn't sleep. So I'd be in there, and it was easy to do. You could do it right here on your phone. But then I realized that work, it was consuming me all the time.
Yes.
So you have to take care of yourself too.
Yeah.
Take time for yourself.
Yeah.
And the kids need to take time for themselves.
Yes.
And the teachers need to take time for themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things I used to tell teachers, and I know our superintendent, Dr. Poblinski, is kind of this way too. Vacation times come. Take time for yourself.
Yeah.
Give the kids time for their families.
Yes.
Please don't assign those assignments. Please don't give them a lot of responsibilities to do, because everybody needs to regroup.
Yes.
And if you regroup and take a breather, we can all hit it again.
Yeah. So the winter break that comes is not just important for the kids, but even for the staff at the school, because they all need that kind of moment to recharge, to stay motivated, to keep going. Because like you said, it's a hard job.
It is. And I think in the phases of teaching, we call it rejuvenation. You need those 2 weeks, 3 weeks to rejuvenate.
Yeah.
To get a sense of normalcy, because it can consume you.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Like, you're probably thinking about it all the time, and then you're at school and you're thinking about it all the time while you're there. Then you're home and you're planning all summer, and I mean, you can't really escape the responsibility of it all. So it's interesting to see what do you think for you worked the most to keep you grounded and motivated to keep moving forward? Because that's
kids.
What I struggle with. Yeah.
The kids.
Yeah.
You go on a school campus and you've got these kids and you just look at them enjoying life, having fun. I'd like to say not a care in the world, but we know that's not true.
Yeah.
They have their burdens to bear too.
Yeah. But
and
somehow
we need to know about it. But somehow, they take time to play. They take time off. And we need to do that for ourselves too.
Yeah.
I
know. It's just so, it's I think as adults, we lose that ability to compartmentalize in a healthy way. We can compartmentalize in a very unhealthy way where we stuff things in a box and never deal with it. But kids have this beautiful way of saying, okay, like you said, maybe something happened at home. I'm just going to leave it back there. I'm going to go to school, be present, be playful. Hazel was the best at doing that during treatment. And I think whenever I'm looking for people to say, oh, how do you get through the day? How do you keep going? It's always kind of boils down to that same answer. It's like being present in the moment and trying to say, okay, what happened. I can deal with it later, but this moment is good and I'm going to take stock in that. And then taking those moments to care for yourself and recharge. And I'm glad that teachers and principals and aides and counselors and all the people who are a part of it do get that opportunity, because I think we forget how much they need it as much as we need it as parents, and we need it as children who are in school. So I think that's really good, and I'm glad that you take advantage of that.
Yeah, and you need to look for the positive in every situation.
Yeah.
You can dwell on the negative, but what does that do?
Yeah.
It just brings you down and puts you in a bad mood, and it doesn't help anything.
No.
So look for the positives. There's good in everything.
Yeah.
Might be harder to find.
Yes.
But think about the positives, because dwelling on the negatives doesn't help at all.
Yeah.
And, and if you've got a problem, think of a solution.
Yeah. So did you find that as a mother, the same things that were helpful to you as a principal, did they apply in your life? Did you find that you were kind of, because a mother's perspective of sending your kids to school and doing homework and, there is that level on top of it. So what, how did that play a role in your life, and how did it, how did they get married, those two things?
That was difficult. And I think if you were to ask my kids, my girls, now everything's fine, but at the time they would sometimes say, Mom, you're harder on us than you expect, more of us than you expect of everybody else. And I expected them to be the best behaved. I expected them to do their homework. I expected them to do those things. And sometimes that's a normal mom thing. But on top of it, I expected them to be more independent, I think.
Yeah.
And that wasn't fair to them.
Yeah.
Because they were kids. They were kids. And there was a time in our life when we'd all roll in the house and I'd say, you know the rule, and they say, yes, Mommy needs 10 minutes in her bedroom. Yeah. And that's what it was.
Yeah.
There was a time for a little while where we just, I needed to decompress and they needed to decompress, and that was how we got along.
Yeah.
That was how we survived. We can talk about this in a little bit.
Yeah.
But for right now, and, is that fair? Probably not. But did it work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's completely fair. And I think it teaches the children that it's okay to take a moment for yourself. Like that you were saying, taking care of yourself. It's just as important as taking care of others. And when you're consistently giving of yourself, you do need that time. I think any mother would agree. And being a mother and then a principal on top of that, giving of yourself for 600 other children, it's going to be difficult. So did you find that the things that helped you stay motivated as a principal, did it help you to stay motivated as a mom throughout the school year? Because I'm sure there was a point where you're like, oh, more homework. Like, I just want to be done with homework, because that's how we all feel, right? And then you've got, 2 kids plus 600 others that you're trying to encourage to keep doing homework. So, did you find it was those moments of, excuse me, of like respite and rest that helped you keep going, or was there other tools that you used?
No, I used that, and then I got better at giving my kids time for themselves.
Yeah.
And time for us as a family.
Yeah.
And my schedule when they were young was I was up at 4 a.m. every morning.
Wow.
That was my quiet time. And that was okay. That was okay.
Yeah.
I might do laundry, I might do schoolwork, I might do something else, but I knew they were asleep. So you make it work. Yeah. And that was best for the kids. And, if it's best for the kids, as a mom, I was happy.
Yeah.
It worked for me.
Man, it must have been so hard, especially as a single mom. I complain all the time about, 4 kids and all the homework and the school that gets missed from being sick. But I've got help. I've got my husband. I've got, my family. And I think about all the people who don't have that kind of support. And I wonder what kinds of things we can offer to them as advice. Like what kind of advice would you give to someone in that situation? Or even someone like me who does have all the support in the world and is still overwhelmed. What kind of advice would you give to people to help them keep going?
Don't be afraid to let people know.
Yes.
And develop some relationships. And when you need a lifeline, ask.
Yeah.
Or Facebook. I know sometimes we worry about Facebook, but sometimes you can see it in people's posts. Mm-hmm. Or, you just know what they're going through. And people are reluctant to ask for help.
I know.
And to let people know, because I think sometimes they see it as a sign of weakness.
Yes.
But it's not.
Mm-mm.
And to share, and it takes a village.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I'll take your kids today. Maybe you can take my kids one day next week.
Yes.
Something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Not a big deal, but it is a big deal.
It is, I find.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have survived the stuff with Hazel and her treatment had I not had that village around me, taking my kids home from school or picking them up or keeping them at their house. And that's just, in an extreme circumstance. But even on the days where Hazel was healthy and everything was fine, it was still overwhelming with 4 kids and getting kids to different schools. And, the minutia of it all can be a heavy burden for anyone, no matter what their circumstances are. So I think that's right, is that you've got to somehow create a community around yourself in such a way that you can lean on people when you need it, and then also that you can be there for people when they need it, because I feel like that's just as important. Yeah. And it brings this sense of like, okay, if I can help somebody else, then I can keep going, and then maybe they can keep going. And I think that's really great. And then leading up to the first day of school, since that's where we're approaching now, what would you do, or what would you say to parents as you encourage them as they prepare for that first day of school? Like, what kind of advice would you give them to prepare themselves, prepare their kids, prepare their families?
Well, you mentioned it earlier, starting to work on the schedules. Mm-hmm. They've had a number of weeks off, and they're probably sleeping later. They're probably going to bed later. They're eating whenever they want to eat. They're probably grazing through the kitchen.
Yes.
I'm sure many of them have had way too much screen time this summer. But
Guilty.
sometimes sometimes that's what they do. But to try to start to get into some sort of a routine, because it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a big adjustment. But then be patient the first couple weeks of school, because it's going to be hard. Your kids are going to come home tired. They may come home not so happy, which that would break my heart, but they might. They're having to work hard.
Yeah.
You know, they might not have lifted up a pencil all summer. They might not have opened a book all summer. Math facts. Oh, what's math? And, you know, they're going to have to get back into this going to school routine.
Yeah.
And making new friends if they're in a new classroom, adjusting to a new teacher.
Yeah.
You know, everybody does things differently. May have a new lunch period. So it's going to be different, but hang in there.
Yeah.
But for parents, be positive with your kids. Listen when they talk to you. But remember always that, you know, things might not be quite as bad as they think they are. But if a child is talking to you and expresses some concern, go talk to the teacher.
Yeah.
Or email the teacher. But come there with a sense of we're all working on this together.
Yes.
How can we
Be
work
partners,
together on
yeah.
this? Yes. The child too.
Yes.
You know, even a young kindergartner or a first grader, what's their role in it?
Yeah.
They can do it too. But be patient, you know, give it a couple of weeks, give it some time to see what's going on. And, you know, if you're real concerned about where they are academically at the beginning of the year, well, stop and think, well, maybe what can I do to help support my child?
Yes.
The teacher's going to do what they can there, but maybe if we help a little bit at home, maybe we can make them feel more comfortable, or maybe it will come back to them.
Yeah.
But how can we help remediate it?
Yeah.
And make them feel better? Because the kids want to do well.
I know.
Parents want their kids to do well, and the kids aim to please.
I know.
They really do.
Yeah.
So if we can look for the positives in things and praise them, specific praise.
Yes.
You know, you did really well. I like the way you added these problems and carried, or, you know, high school. You know, you did. I appreciate the way you come home and you get right to your work and you're getting it done and you're getting up and doing all the. Be positive.
Yeah. Be patient. Be positive.
Be patient. Be positive.
Be prepared. Hey, all these P's.
There you go.
Right.
But also talk about school.
Yeah.
You know, the kids are going to, what did you do at school today? Well, they're going to say nothing.
Yeah.
They're going to say nothing, but
I try to be specific with my kids. I always ask them, because I found the same thing. Every time I said, what'd you do at school today? Or how was school today? It was fine, nothing. So I started asking, what was the best part of your day and what was the worst part of your day? So then I at least got one thing that was specific. And a lot of times it would lead to kind of more conversation. And I think that is key, is like being as involved as you can, being as patient as you can, supporting them as much as you can, and then also like being in communication. Like you said, it's a big partnership. And I also think, touching back on what you said, is giving those breaks, being, you know, understanding that the kids need time to decompress just as much as we do, and giving them that space to breathe. And I think I forget that a lot too. And I think a lot of moms do, because we're just so busy and we've got so many plates that we're holding that we forget that there's like this little piece that needs to fit in the puzzle in order for it to be better. And so I appreciate that you kind of touched on that subject earlier. And I also think that remembering how important education is, and help having the kids know how important it is. That it's not just we're sending you to school and mommy gets a break. It's we're sending you to school because education is so important, and it's going to set you up for success in your life. It's going to teach you about the world. It's going to give you new perspectives. And I know we were talking before, your daughter had sent you this quote from Nelson Mandela.
She did.
And I just was thinking about it, and I was like, you know, it's so true what he said.
Yeah, because often kids will say, why? Why do I need to go to school?
Yeah.
I didn't learn anything. I don't need this stuff. Why do I
Yeah.
need to learn long division? Why do I do that? But Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So the kids need to know that it's through education they will have the choices.
Yeah.
And if they are well educated, then they can go in whatever direction they choose, whether it's into a career, whether it's going on to college, whether it's a trade.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But they have control of their life.
Yes.
Without education, you don't have a control.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going back to what you said, I know two families. I know there are a lot more, but I know two specifically that every night at the dinner table, this is a dinner conversation, one says what was the best part of your day and what was the worst part of your day. And then they beam up to the next person. That's my one daughter. My neighbor, who's an educator also, they go around the table, what was your rose and what was your thorn
I like
today? So stopping.
I'm glad to know I'm not the only one doing that. That's really great.
And, sitting down, it's hard when the kids are busy and you're busy and everything else, but that dinner time.
Yes.
Family dinner time, even if it's a couple days a week or 3 times a week, that's a time when you can bond.
Yes.
And that's such an important time.
Yeah.
So, that would be a piece of advice too.
Yeah.
Take time to be together as a family.
And talk to your kids.
Because you're a unit, and talk to your kids because they need to know that you're listening.
Yeah.
And they need to know they have a voice. But they need to also hear yours. What's the best part of your day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's so powerful. Well, I'm so thankful that you came on today, and I really hope that the people watching can kind of have a renewed perspective on what it takes to educate our children, and that going back to school isn't just about getting new backpacks and school supplies. Like, there is a whole slew of things that people who are involved in your children's life are thinking about. And I just so appreciate that you were willing to come on and share from your heart.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, good.
I was very nervous.
Oh, you were fine. You were great, right? She was great. Everyone leave a comment. She was so good.
Thank you so much.
So just as a reminder, this is Hope with Lauren Kelley. You can tune in on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. on All Access Broadcasting. You can follow All Access Broadcasting on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find our videos on YouTube. Be sure to comment, share with us about your going back to school experiences, how you stay motivated, what are the things you'd like us to talk about. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at The Lauren Kelley, or on my website at thelaurenkelley.com. You can listen to my podcast, For Grits and Giggles, on any podcast streaming device, and also on our website, forgritsandgigglespod.com. And again, I wanted to end the show with some words on hope. And when Lori and we were talking earlier, there was this quote from Dr. Seuss that I think really resonated with the both of us, so I wanted to share that with you today. He said that you have brains in your head and feet in your shoes, and you can steer yourself in any direction you choose. And I think that's a really powerful thing, and it kind of goes along with what Nelson Mandela said, that you've got brains in your head, and when you're educated, when you're learning, and when you're open to learning about other people, other cultures, you can steer yourself in any direction you choose, and you can keep moving forward on those days when it seems too hard. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Hold 10 seconds for room tone. 3, 2, 1.